Hello, everyone, again. Welcome to our panel, 15 Years of B-Sides, Behind the Scenes AMA. Well, thank you for being here. You can ask questions on Slido, and once this are done, you can talk to them outside. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you for joining us. This session is really all for you to let you ask us questions about how B-Sides works on the underside, on the backside. Yes, and we are all a little punchy. It's been a long 3 days so far, and we have a lot more to go tonight.
It's day 5 of 6. Thank you very much.
Okay, fine. Exactly. For day 4 for me, day 5 of 6 for Reed. Let's do a quick round of introductions. Let's hear who you are, what you're responsible for, how long you've been with B-Sides, and that sounds like a good start. So I'm Ricky. I do sponsors and other stuff, and I've been with B-Sides since 2017. Let's start.
Witter? Yes.
Yeah, Reed.
Hi, I'm Reed. I am the president and lead organizer for B-Sides San Francisco. I've been with BSidesSF for 10 years now. I started off actually running the CFP for 1 year, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, can you just run everything?" And so that's literally how it went. Yeah.
I'm Megan. I've been with B-Sides for 9 years on staff, and I volunteered for 1 year before that. I've done a number of different jobs, primarily kind of in venue operations, and most recently, primarily written communications.
Hello, I'm Tanya. I mostly have run sponsors.
Easier.
I've been with B-Sides 11 years, 10 years as a lead, and I recruited these two.
And this one.
And that one.
Yeah.
No, not you. That one,
Yeah,
sorry.
those two. Yeah, those two. So I'm Steve. Before Ricky. That's actually Ricky on the end. In case you were wondering why I don't look like that. So I'm Steve. I've been with B-Sides since year 2, which was I think 14 years ago now. I was a volunteer starting in year 3, and and I do safety ops mostly. With operations before, turned into safety ops. It's still safety ops. And I also participate in B-Sides Las Vegas, for those of you who are coming. CFP's call for volunteers is open for Vegas, just FYI. Plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, plug.
It's a 2.5 day conference at Vegas this year too.
Yes, and Vegas is bigger this year and even better. It's 2.5 day conference. It's Monday, Tuesday, and half day Wednesday. Okay, I'll stop the plug for Vegas.
Cool. All right, so let's on for our first question. What is your favorite story about an individual or corporation finding success at BSidesSF? Tanya, you want to talk about that from the sponsor side?
Great. My favorite story, it's really more about connecting with people. I don't really have one favorite story about one specific vendor, or sponsor, sorry. Although they're always fun, and some of them come back repeatedly and thank us and tell us how great it is to be here and how much they enjoy it. And then they get bought, and then we don't see them again.
That's really true. So please, Wiz, come back. Everybody, please. Just saying.
Exactly.
Well, the first time I volunteered, I was a sponsor. I was sponsoring for the company I worked for. I was volunteering. I was doing registration with Tanya. And if you're interested in running a B-Sides, I would say one thing is about proactively recruiting for staff. As Tanya mentioned, she recruited myself. She recruited Ricky. Finding those folks who what they do and how they do it really aligns to how you want to run your team has been really meaningful for us. So I think for me, being a sponsor, moving to a volunteer, moving to staff has been a personally incredible experience for me. So I'm incredibly thankful to Tanya for that one.
And
And I'm thankful to her.
and we've had actually several sponsors that have converted into staff and leads over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the one that I can think of that's happening on right now is Code Red Partners. Started as Tom being a volunteer, and then he started a company and started in the lower tiers, and he's running the Career Village, and now they're up in the Gold Sponsor, and Code Red Partners is doing really, really well. So we're very happy and excited about all that.
And they love being here.
Yes, they do. Next question. Have you had any horror stories, like a vendor threatening to sue the conference due to the contents of a talk, or law enforcement having problems with a talk or speaker? Reed, since you're the lead,
Oh, geez.
what's your favorite one of these?
We have not had like threatened to sue us before. There's been plenty of times when there's been something said by a presenter or something that caused controversy, but that's kind of normal. I would say that in any kind of conference, whether it's B-Sides, I mean this has happened plenty of times at DEF CON and Black Hat. As well, is that some presenters, like to say things that for the lulz, or to get the hits. So yeah, that happens. We have had nothing happen where we like a lot of people know, if people remember, I don't know if it was DEF CON or Black Hat, I think, where they had to confiscate actually things because of some legal problems with a talk. So we've never had, to my knowledge, since I've been involved, had anything like that happen. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's always a concern of just like understanding what could go wrong. And so our program operations team has been very good about working with the presenters, making sure that we kind of talk to them about things. And then also I think we have a agreement we actually have with our presenters to basically say that, like, hey, take for example, we don't want you disclosing an O-Day here at B-Sides. Like, that's not our ethos. I'm fine with you disclosing. We're fine with you disclosing of vulnerability and such, but you need to have done it responsibly. You need to have to make sure that that a fix is available. We're just not the type of conference for that kind of stuff. Again, we're here to actually help the community, and disclosing an O-Day doesn't help anybody here. So I don't know if anybody else has any horror stories that I'm aware of.
But they're not about lawsuits and presenters.
Yeah.
We have horror stories about attendee behavior.
Oh yeah, plenty of
but
those.
that's a separate conversation. We'll kind of keep those private. You can ask me later if you really want to know.
Off the record.
Yes, definitely off the record on
the
that.
Yeah, absolutely OTR.
What things did you used to do but had to stop doing and wish you could bring back?
Well, one thing that we actually brought back this year that I was very happy that we were able to brought back is the graphic recordings. We were just not able to do that. We tried to sell that. It's actually very expensive to do the visual notes. We just didn't get a sponsor for it for the last several years. We tried. It was part of the sponsorship kit. But we were able to bring that back this year. And if you've been to the City View lobby and seen some of the work that has been done by the artists, it's really cool. And so I'm very happy to be actually bringing that back this year. I don't know if y'all had anything else.
I think the one thing that we're missing, I wish we could bring back, is an internship program. We used to have one. We got students and interns, and it was great having them and introducing to the community, helping build the community at a very young age, or maybe not a young age. You don't have to be young to be an intern. But it helps to increase the reach, right? Bring new people in, help them get over imposter syndrome and all the rest that we all struggle with as part of this community. And I wish we could bring that back.
Sort of a starters track kind of thing?
Basically, starters track,
Yeah.
Much like in Las Vegas. Sorry, I keep pumping Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, we have a whole talk track dedicated to people who it's their first time, right? And it gives people that opportunity to get that run. That's not necessarily interns, but it's a similar kind of idea. Yeah.
Cool. I have two questions here that are kind of similar. What are the top 3 improvements the organizers have made to the conference in the last 5 years? And what are the metrics that we use to decide if the event was a success for the community? Megan, don't think you said a lot right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So what are improvements we've made as organizers? I would say we've definitely brought on more staff over the last few years. Once upon a time, there were maybe 10 of us, and we ran ourselves incredibly ragged. Not to say we don't still, but I don't think to the same extent that we used to. I think we went to a department structure that really helped, as opposed to there was a single point of failure that we were always concerned with. It does mean that we become people managers as volunteer organizers, which is a lifestyle choice, but it definitely has cut down on the amount of miles that we walk. I think there was one year we walked in a single day about 23 miles. Now we average closer to 10 to 15.
We
So
do
that's-
keep track, by the way.
it's a bit of a competition.
There's a line sheet.
But distributing the work and bringing on more staff and recruiting for staff, I think that's an improvement we've made.
Also, just expanding space too. You know, when I got involved back in 2015, we were still just at DNA Lounge, and then we expanded from DNA Lounge to DNA Lounge and Buzzworks, and then we finally moved over here just to City View, and then finally it expanded into AMC, just a small batch of theaters, then bigger, and now we have all of AMC this year. Actually, you know, all basically 3 entire floors of this building. So that's been one improvement that I've really enjoyed, is being able to expand the space, which means we can actually have more talks and presentations and other content available for folks, make it a much more, you know, be able to bring lots of cool new stuff. There's a lot of times we'll talk about like, hey, we'd love to do X, Y, Z, and it's just our limitation is we just don't have the room for it. And so being able to expand the space and have more options available to us for things is one thing I've personally enjoyed.
When I first started, I drew our floor plan in Excel. Now we actually use some good tools. So that's been a huge improvement. And we do use that to figure out how we're going to expand and grow and add more villages like we did this year, because space has definitely been one of the issues that we've been trying to fix every single year as we grow.
There's a lot of things I look back. Once upon a time, I fed everyone personally from Costco. Like I literally got all the bagels and all the sandwiches and hand trucked them to the venue. Like the thought of doing that now is just laughable, but it's interesting to see all the ways we've grown and the things that made so much sense 9 years ago that we could never fathom. But it is because we've grown the event and the space and so much of it.
How many Costco's did you go to?
For bagels, I think it was 3. Because I just kept taking them out of stock. So yeah, those are fun times when you look back though. Would never do it again.
Lots of growing pains, but it was fun.
Sorry, I lost the question. Has there ever been a desire to decouple it from RSA? Why or why not?
We've discussed it. I think the benefit of having it tied to RSA is that we get a lot of folks that don't live here in the Bay Area that are flying in for RSA, and they just extend by a few days and are able to join B-Sides. And you know, we're partners with RSA. We've been able to build a good relationship with them over the last few years. But it's always nice when somebody says that, like, oh yeah, you know, came to B-Sides, and I guess they like, I'll also do RSA while I'm here. So instead of the vice versa. And so it's always fun to hear that. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're looking at the numbers, especially international folks, where it's like very challenging to kind of and expensive to come in. I don't think we'd be able to have those kind of folks if we weren't tied to RSA. Just like Vegas, if they weren't tied to Black Hat and DEF CON, I think those numbers would be a lot, less, of course.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Right. It does expand your reach. It also expands the kind of quality of both the presenters, frankly, right, that we're able to get. And I think it also broadens the reach in terms of sponsors, right? You have all these sponsors who maybe don't want to spend the money for RSA. Yeah. And then we can partner with them instead.
We've had multiple sponsors that have just used their RSA budget on us instead and have been very happy.
And it's no surprise running an event in San Francisco is incredibly expensive. And so we are very thankful for all the sponsors to make it possible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also all the participants, a lot of other B-Sides around the world have more students. We have quite a mix of students and experienced people and new people and everything, so.
Yeah, I actually love the range that we literally have brand new students, including, high school kids that are here, all the way up to CISOs and everything in between. And I love that. I love that we have something that appeals to everybody.
Exactly. I think our youngest attendee this year was 5, as in 5 years old.
Now, the reason why we would want to move away is the cost, because the cost does increase for everything around RSA, and also space. We're very limited in space around RSA, so we look at all of those things.
That leads very well to the next question. Have you ever thought about switching venues to have a larger or smaller event?
Oh, Ricky, you seeded this
No,
question.
no.
I know this was you.
No, my seated question did get added up. I haven't asked it yet.
Okay.
But I'm going to kind of combine it with this and three things into one question, which is, have you ever thought about switching venues to a larger or smaller event? If so, what are some of the factors and thought process around that? Larger or longer or shorter show? How did the original idea of a movie theater come about? And this is the seated question. What's next for BSidesSF? On a cruise ship?
So Ricky threatens to take us to a cruise ship every year. It's my worst nightmare.
Seaside.
But it would be
Just stay.
Seasides is the new branding. We talk about this every year. What we're gonna do, how we want. Do we want the conference to grow? Do we want the event to grow? To what extent? And the venue is always part of that. Time will tell. Is kind of where I stand.
We just keep looking at options and keep coming back here.
Yeah, it's really hard. San Francisco has a lot of big spaces, but the spaces aren't kind of not able to break into like different kind of tracks and such. So like, yeah, we could go to Fort Mason or one of the piers or something like that, but we would literally have to build walls, and like then you have to think about sound isolation, all these other kind of things there that come with that, and your costs just skyrocket from there. And so it's kind of very hard to go figure out what is the next step from here. We look every year and kind of take a look at what makes sense here. And we've been talking today and yesterday is like, okay, at what point does it make sense that like, okay, hey, do we continue to expand and try to go to that next step? Or do we do something like what ShmooCon does and set a upper limit and just stick with that? Like there are options here that we're still trying to work out.
Yeah, I've been looking for a few years to try to figure out what would be next if we were to keep growing, or even like stay the same but find a different venue slightly away from Moscone and the RSA conference, and it's hard. So if you know of something that is very similar to this, please reach out and let us know, because we will consider all options.
Even a ship.
Yeah,
I
even a
disagree
ship.
on that. I don't think I'll consider that.
But to one of the other follow-up questions was about the movie theater. I think we kind of lucked into that because we didn't actually start in AMC. We started just with City View. And it just so happened that we were like, okay, well, we need to expand. It just so happens that in this building, there's a movie theater. And so reached out to AMC, and they've been really great to work with over the last few years. And again, this is our first year doing a full buyout of all 16 auditoriums. And honestly, it's really fun to kind of like, hey, you're having these talks, in the movie theater. People are sitting in the seats. You can recline back and enjoy it. And then also, of course, being able to have your presentation be on like the IMAX screen, and like that's really cool. And so I really enjoy it. My only wish on the AMC front is I wish there were more seats in the theaters. But again, this is San Francisco. You only have so much space.
And workshops.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to find a good place for workshops. So if you know any, doesn't have to be here.
Yeah, could be nearby, good home for that, easy access, something easy to secure.
That's where you go.
Yeah, that's where we go, right? That's where I have to go, yeah. That'd be great. I think the theater thing has been a lot of fun. The 5-year-old, by the way, was here to watch their dad present at IMAX.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was like super excited. Like, dad's here, screens like this. Your 5-year-old gets to watch.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I love it.
All right. Roro had a question, which I'm going to combine with another one. Roro asks, to the panel, this has been an incredible event and a staple of my yearly conference attendance. I've met so many wonderful people here. How many more years do you plan to continue to do this? And someone else has asked, what are the growth opportunities for BSidesSF? What would you guys like to see for BSides in the next 5 to 10 years? So how much longer do we plan on doing this?
Was that directed at us individually or besides sort of in general? Okay.
To all of us. Oh, wow.
Yeah, individually, it's a very interesting question, right? 14 years, right? I've been coming to this 13 years. I've been volunteering. 11 of them are staff, right? Working for folks. And then I do Vegas on top of this and a couple other cons in addition to that. It's an interesting thing. I think I'm addicted to it, so I'm probably going to be here till I drop. But that's honestly just me, and it's my personal problem that I'm sharing. How about you, Tanya? What's that? Yeah, I think there's exactly. I meet tons of organizers, right, all the time, and a number of us have this broken genetic sickness. Yeah, that makes us want to keep doing this. I think at the end, though, why do we do it? You do it because you see this community, and this community is incredibly powerful. And I think this particular conference is an amazing asset for San Francisco, right? It proves the power of this community, the InfoSec community here in San Francisco. It makes us better, right? And year after year, I see it continue to grow. It's really amazingly promising. Whereas like Vegas is different, again, right? You don't have that year-over-year community being built in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right? There's more InfoSec practitioners in Vegas every year, but they all seem to leave after DEF CON. Right? Whereas here we see the community growing every year. And so there's always this positive feedback loop that makes you want to keep coming back.
So I keep telling my family this is my last year and then I come back. But honestly, this year I stepped way back, and thank you, Ricky, for stepping in. So this year I was more of an advisor because I changed jobs and I just don't have the time to put in. It does take a lot of time, not just during the con, but all year long. Planning, recruiting, whatever it takes. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing this, but as long as you guys still want me as an advisor, I'm here.
Yeah, similar to Tanya, I think the last couple of years I've definitely pulled back, and I'm always questioning if it's my last year. When I started doing this, I had a 9-month-old, and now I have a 10-year-old and a 6.5-year-old. And the job I have today is very different than the job I had 9 years ago. And so carving out the time every week is that much more difficult. And it is weekly. I mean, it's weekly, at least a weekly meeting. It's the work you have every week, and the lead up to the show is even that much greater. The Saturday before we all came here, we spent had an 8-hour meeting, a 9-hour meeting, 6-hour meeting, an all-day meeting. So it's just an incredible time investment. Why I keep doing that though is like, I love these humans. Like this is like a little family for us. You know, like we sign off calls like love you. Like we do truly care about one another.
Yes.
And it's like, we've like trauma bonded, I guess, to a certain extent,
so.
right? When you're so deliriously tired
Like
and you
now.
can't see straight, there's just something that so brings you together, and it's really cool to see. And I just love spending time with these folks. And if I didn't do this, I don't know when I would see them. So that's why I come back. In addition to everything Steve said, also for me personally, like I love having a work product that is really physical and tangible to get to experience. That has been really fun with conference planning because you spend all year and then you get to see it and you get to see people experiencing it. And I love that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think about this every year as well. I mean, I've been here for 10 years, and I spent a lot of time on B-Sides. There are certain weeks, especially closer to the event, where I'm spending at least 40 hours on my day job, and then probably at least 30 hours, at least 30 hours on B-Side stuff. And so I basically have 2 full-time jobs, and only one of them pays me. So. It can be a lot. This is why, when I talk about in my opening remarks both mornings, is like, hey, we're always looking for more people to join and kind of participate. And there's all kind of different ways to do that. Yes, it is a year-round obligation, but it doesn't mean that you're immediately thrown in and there's tons of hours like we do. There are opportunities that don't take as much effort there, that we still need kind of that fresh blood, fresh energy to kind of come in and help us out. We do kind of suck from a succession planning though. It's something that we've discussed many times about like, what is the plan there? And how do we kind of handle that? So again, this is where we'd love other people to kind of join in and, be able to one day pass the torch.
Sure.
Because we want this to outlast us,
Yes.
right? Like we hope this goes on forever, whether we're still here or not. So that is something we talk about quite a bit. How are we going to bring in that next generation of staff and organizers?
I do want to add one thing. Ricky's been really good about automating things that I used to do manually, so that's helped a lot.
Yeah, and in Safety Ops in particular, we've built an entire org structure. It used to be one guy and a bunch of other minions, and now it's one guy and 5 leads and 8 minions below that, and then 100 people below that. Right, so you're essentially building a whole organization to make this more sustainable, so that you can come back year after year. It does, though, as Megan said, it is a completely different job. I no longer have to tune radios. I now have someone who buys them from or rents them from a vendor, right? It's gone from one thing all the way to the other, right? And I don't have anybody putting in a repeater anywhere anymore, and I don't have to figure out why it broke. So yeah.
I knew it had changed when someone referred to me as my boss's boss, and I realized they were talking about B-sides, and like they saw it in that level of structure, and I was like, oh, this isn't what I expected.
Yeah, I got called that today. My boss's boss for a volunteer job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit crazy. How many layers did you say? 3 layers of?
We have in safety ops, we have 1, 2, 3. We're really 4 layers deep now. Yeah, there's 3 that work for me.
Yeah, cool. Are any ideas on expanding leadership? We were just talking about that. I think it's always be recruiting. We're always looking for more people. We're always looking for volunteers that are stepping up and doing more work than they need to or they have to, and constantly seem to be energized and wanting to contribute. There's some other questions in here about why should I volunteer at BSidesSF? And how do you avoid burning out volunteers, year-round ones and day of ones?
Does anybody here work at Shmoo? Oh well, I was going to say if anybody was working at Shmoo, well, how are you?
We don't pay.
We don't pay, but we'll hire you. Come on down. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that, yeah, I mean, it's like there's so many different ways to volunteer, different departments and such. And so if you have a passion for, a particular area of things, like one thing we were just actually talking about earlier today is that the website needs a major refresh. And so, we have tons of photos from our professional photographer that we've collected over the years, and we're really bad about actually using those. And so it's would be nice to actually have somebody to redo the website, which is something like it's like right now it's some GitHub Pages thing that I set up I don't know.
Who said that?
I'm gonna throw the shmoo ball at you. Yeah, set up 10 years ago, and so it's there's plenty of things for people to do from a volunteer standpoint that we've loved as people to kind of reach out. One thing that we have found successful is that people volunteer for the event and they really enjoy it, and so hey, they say hey, how can I help out more? And then we hey, here you go, here's the stuff you can do, and then all of a sudden they're a staffer or a lead. But yeah.
Well, as I said, that's exactly what happened to me, right?
Yeah, same
My
here.
first year I worked for Jedi. Yeah, it was Jedi. I worked for Jedi, and then the next year he was gone. And so someone had to fill the hole, and I got the job, right? And it was wonderful. I met lots of people. I did it all. It was 4 of us. We did the whole thing. We were a much smaller show at that time. I'm trying to remember if that was a show at ZM or that was a show at OpenDNS.
Oh my God, Open DNF.
When was Children's Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Children's Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first.
That was your first? Yeah. So that,
Well,
that
I
was
went to Children's Museum as an attendee or a participant.
Uh-huh.
Open DNS was my first volunteer.
was your first volunteer. That's right. I remember that.
That place was dark and hot.
Yeah. Well, we had food trucks.
I do remember the food truck.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to switch over to some logistic questions. And there's a stack of them here. So how much equipment do you rent versus buy and store?
Alex.
Where's Alex?
Yeah, we have a
quartermaster.
QM now.
Yeah.
We have someone whose full-time job is just inventory, if that gives you a sense of how much stuff we have.
We have a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And he's a year-round volunteer.
And most of what you see in front of you did not come from that storage.
Yeah.
The table, the linens, the mics.
We rent a lot of stuff, pretty much all the furniture, tables, chairs, things like that. All the AV equipment is all rented. All of our network gear we've actually had donated from various groups, and so that is ours. All the cameras and such are all ours as well. So we keep that. And then there's just kind of notebooks, stationery, paper, pins.
Office supplies.
Office supplies, yeah. Office supplies we keep. We have a dedicated, printer and everything else.
Refrigerator.
Yeah, lots of power cords, lots of extension cords, all this kind of stuff that we do. Yeah, we have a refrigerator. Yeah, so it's a fair bit. We do have an entire storage unit that we fill up. It is completely full. In fact, they've already told me that we probably need to, because we'll load back in to the storage unit tomorrow, and they're like, yeah, we're not sure we're going to be able to fit, so we may have to get a bigger one. So I'm like, yay, fun.
How big is it?
It's pretty big already. So, but yeah, we already fill up a 6-foot box truck completely of our stuff.
This year
And-
it was multiple trips.
yeah, we had to
too.
do 2 trips. So next year we're gonna have to get a bigger truck.
Or maybe 2.
Someone, Fab, asks, what does safety ops include? What do you do, like physical safety, security as well?
Yeah, so safety ops is a funny phrase, right? It means a lot of things to a lot of people. We talk about it though as it's broken down into 3 basic areas. One is to protect the show, right? Then protect then protect attendees. So that in that way we're making sure that attendees have a safe experience, right? Make sure this is a space where people feel comfortable. Make sure that our code of conduct is being followed. Anybody read it?
Make sure no one leans on the walls.
Make sure nobody touches the walls because they charge us a lot of money when they have to repaint walls. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, it's protect the venue. Well, the venue is sort of our lowest priority item, right? But it's the conference, the attendees are really first and second. So that involves making sure people don't get into places they don't need to be, making sure people don't have experiences that they didn't want to have.
You also have to make sure that we have fire lanes open and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Fire marshal, all of that goes into that. Managing alcohol consumption goes into that, especially the show in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also safety ops is also responsible for bringing Dr. Sarah on. So, and then also we have an on-site medic as well. That's also under safety ops.
So
With all the wild stories people say about eclectic speakers, what or who was the most controversial presenter you remember?
No comment.
yeah, I think the one that I found the most fascinating, and I was just like flabbergasted and wowed by the whole thing, was the person who talked about hacking their biome. We had
A biohacker?
yeah, the biohacker. I think that was one I was like, ooh, wow. It was just me personally, though. I didn't hear lots of flack about it. It wasn't like all over Twitter or anything, but I was just sort of sat there in the back going, oh, wow. And oh, wow.
I will say we actually don't get to watch many talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I don't think I've watched a talk in at least 7 years.
Yeah.
I watched Reed's opening remarks and that's about it. So
That's not really a talk.
I think
it has to be pretty controversial to hit us because we're not actually getting to sit
Yeah.
in the seats.
I think I've seen 3 in 10 years.
So I think this is the second talk I've actually seen. The first one was because I was walking around DNA Lounge and I got to see Jason Craig speaking from the stage of DNA Lounge.
Yeah, that's one of the things you do learn to give up as an organizer, is actually attending your own show.
We don't. I mean, we love the party and that's great. And the happy hour, we don't go to the happy hour of the parties. Like it's just we are sitting in an ops dead from just walking on our feet all day long since we get here. Call time is for us for the last 3 days has been 6 a.m. And if not earlier in some cases. And so it's we're pretty dead by the end of the day.
So with it being that much work, what keeps you coming back from time to time? Or keeps coming you back time to time?
I mean, it's a labor of love. I think it's
It's the people.
It's the people. It's an incredibly rewarding experience too.
Absolutely.
I thoroughly enjoy it. Even the lead up to it, the event itself, even if we're not going to talks, being able to walk around and see it come to life and see how other people are experiencing it is really fun to see.
It's like if you have a child and you see them succeed and you feel happy. It's like that.
I agree. It's that sensation. And then we hear stories from attendees, right? That they got their first job out of this conference. They have this whole career. We'll see them 5-7 years later, right? They've built a whole career because they met someone at this show. It's really heartwarming. It makes you feel good inside. It makes you feel like you're helping to build this community.
Yeah, or they started here, they founded a company, they had a successful exit,
Right.
they're still coming back, they're enjoying it. I think for me, it's the we start off with basically, in city view, bare walls and a floor. And we go from that to what you see today in a very short amount of time. And then tonight, I guess it is Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Back
good,
to bare
good.
walls.
We will take it back down to bare walls and a floor. And that whole process is just very detailed, and it's amazing to see it come together after all the planning that we do.
And then Reed gets to walk around and look at how many dings we put in the walls.
All those expensive dings. Yeah.
I will say, we also do things that I would never do in my day job. There's so many skills and things I know about lighting and event planning that I would never do. So it's been really interesting to have like a completely new skill set that you wouldn't get to experience anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And then outside of this stuff too, I've learned so much, again, as you know, the president and such and everything else, because for legacy reasons, the legal entity that is the San Francisco B-Sides is also the global B-Sides. This is all predates me. But basically, we also manage all the trademarks and intellectual property for B-Sides worldwide falls under us. So I've learned way too much about this, you know, and then also as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, then all the kind of, you know, nonprofit specific things, like we still have to file tax returns every year and, you know, do our books and all the financial stuff there with accounting and such. And so that takes a lot of time. And I've learned a lot about like, okay, it has to be done a certain way that is very different from like normal business accounting. So there are very specific rules on things that, and this also affects like the types of sponsorships that we can have. There's certain things that are just like would be in violation of IRS rules. And so we have to be very careful about that as well.
Yeah, I have to admit that we learned about 501c3s from B-Sides, right? And we're able to build the 501c3 that we have that runs other community organizations because of B-Sides. We learned that here, right? I wouldn't have had the chance to learn that if it wasn't here.
And we donate all of the t-shirt funds that we make because then we don't have to pay taxes on them.
No, we, you know, well, we still pay sales tax. Welcome,
Yeah.
that's California for you.
Yeah, in California, you have to pay sales
Yeah.
tax.
So ShmooCon does it. That they do it for that reason.
Yeah.
And
We
then
started it for that reason.
yeah, well, no, that ShmooCon does it for that, and then basically, I was like, I love the idea of being able to support the charities, and so, but we still have to do the sales tax, unfortunately.
Nevada, you don't.
That's
California, you do.
California for you, though.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we did have the question of what is B-Sides and how does that relate to B-Sides SF, which I think you just covered. How are B-Sides venues cities selected outside of SF? Is there anywhere you'd like to see a B-Sides event?
Well, I think going back to your previous question, and please, y'all, for the speed especially, but like my understanding, again, I was not at the first B-Sides. Again, I got involved. My first B-Sides was in well, I went to Vegas previously, but my first B-Sides San Francisco was 2014. But my understanding is that back in 2009, basically, you know, a group of folks were in Vegas at for B-Sides, I'm sorry, for DEF CON and Black Hat, and weren't able to get. They had some talks, but they just weren't able to get accepted. And so they were like, "Hey, why don't we just like rent like an Airbnb or something and just kind of have talks there?" And kind of like an unconference. And basically they were like, okay, well, we need a name for this. And so we're like, okay, let's, you know, like, oh, B-Sides, like the B-side of a cassette. And so, and we've also learned, like, again, because B-Sides has been around for so long, that I've run into folks that don't know what a cassette is.
45 RPM record. Or 45 RPM record.
Yes. And so I have to explain this concept to them, and I feel very old when I do this.
I love when I see like on a Reddit post that someone has suddenly discovered what the name B-Sides might be related to. I'm like, yep, you got it. But we knew that the person who started this, Jack, he's a musician. He knows what a B-Side is.
Yeah.
No, that's very accurate. That's actually how this got started. It really was they didn't want to hear our talks, right? They didn't want to hear what we had to say. And we thought that it was worth hearing, right? And so the best way to do that, if you're an organizer type, and your brain thinks like that, well, they don't want to hear me. I'm going to do it myself, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing that you learn about B-Sides. So that leads directly into the second question, like where would you want to see more? What is B-Sides and how do you make more? You pick where you want to make a B-Sides. You want to make a B-Sides in Reno? Make a B-Sides in Reno. You want to make a B-Sides in Tulare County? Make a B-Sides in Tulare County or Wichita or wherever you want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the bsides.org website, there's a checklist. You do a little bit of a phone conversation about an hour with one of the lead global organizers, and you're ready to go. And it's just up to you to stand it up. And the community is here to help you if you want to do that.
Every single B-Sides is separate. And so like we're all separate entities, all do our own thing. We kind of live by a set of kind of guidelines and like ways of thinking about things, the kind of the B-Sides ethos and kind of what B-Sides is.
And the code of conduct.
Yeah, framework, I guess is the right word.
It's a framework, yeah. It really is a framework, right? And they run all sorts of sizes. The smallest B-Sides I ever went to had, I think, 30 people, right? And then the biggest B-Sides in the world now is Canberra.
Vegas is?
Canberra, and
wow.
the last number I heard for Canberra is, and anyone can correct me if this is not right, the last number I heard for Canberra was it's over 6,000.
Whoa. I've
Yeah,
heard that.
and
Wow.
so the reason I heard why is it's apparently the only community InfoSec conference in the entire continent.
That's not quite true. We learned earlier today. There's actually one in
Brisbane.
Brisbane.
Oh, so now there's one in Brisbane too? Awesome.
That's what I've heard today
That's awesome.
from the organizer of Brisbane. No, that was not.
No, nothing.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay, but that's cool. Yeah, that was the original reason I heard Canberra was just enormous compared to all the other B-Sides.
I had somebody come to me today and say, what does it take to do something in Thailand? So,
In Thailand?
yeah, I put them in
Again,
touch with somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do it.
Yep. Do
I'll
it.
go.
Check the
Do it
website,
by
check
the
B-Sides.
beach. I'll totally be down.
Check bsides.org. Again, there's some information on kind of how to start a B-Sides event. And you basically just reach out to info@bsides.org, have that conversation and kind of go from there. And, we give you some tools and resources and like some guides that people have written. But you're on your own too to kind of like self get something going there. Because again, we're all independent and we all kind of do our own thing.
Yeah, but also don't feel like you have to make it all yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like Seattle, for example, Seattle actually operates their safety ops on the manual we wrote for Vegas and San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
We
Right.
definitely share.
So
I've
we share-
stolen so much-
absolutely share, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We graciously borrowed.
Graciously borrowed so much stuff from Vegas and from ShmooCon both.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sarah asks, what's unique about the SF hacker community? How do you lean into that?
I think one thing that I don't know about the hacker community, but one thing we've been trying to do for years and continue to expand it even this year is our community organizations. And so being able to bring the kind of the local organizations that are in the area, just off the top of my head in no particular order, we have OWASP, we've had the Pacific Hackers, we've had obviously EFF. And ISC squared.
Girls Who Hack,
Yeah, all this kind
Women
of
in security.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep,
WISP, yeah.
yeah, and so YSIGs, and just all of these different kind of groups that are in the global or in the kind of like greater Silicon Valley area, and so just giving them a place to kind of be there and be present at the event. That's just kind of our way of kind of giving back. To those communities as well, and giving them a place to meet folks in the like-minded community.
All right. Last question. Roro asks, can we have a throwback party at the DNA Lounge and next door bars? I loved how chaotically wonderful it was. Felt very punk rock.
I was actually teasing that earlier that it would be kind of fun to go back to those days.
And
Oh, a mid-year? Oh, a second event. I love that, Tanya.
Okay.
maybe,
Who's organizing
maybe,
that?
or just a big party bus that goes over to DNA and we rock the place.
I was kind of thinking it'd be fun to like do a B-sides like in some place that has like a bunch of theaters and a bunch of venues around it that like it's not go to theater 4, it's go to that bar or go to that particular art theater or that particular art theater.
Okay.
But I haven't found it in San Francisco yet. I haven't found the right place. I'm still looking.
You can organize that one.
Yeah, that was like I had a vision of a B-Sides in a shuttered shopping mall.
Ooh,
That could actually work out really well because then we could also do laser tag or
Exactly, right? You could have laser tag on one end, bar on the other end, the whole thing, right?
You can see where these conversations go every time we have them, how they spiral all sorts of ways.
this is how the chaos starts.
yeah.
How the chaos
This is how
starts.
Seaside starts.
Yeah.
So.
Right? Yeah.
If you're into that, I recommend talking to Ricky. He's a big fan. He wants to captain.
That could be the
I can't capture.
off-season B-Sides. You could have the-
Off-season.
You could have the off-season B-Sides.
All right. I think that's our time. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank
if you have
you.
further questions,
Thank you.
we didn't answer your questions.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all for
Please come
coming.
and find us some later time.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.